right, we're back. Guys, welcome back to What's the Hazard? You are listening to or viewing our podcast on workplace safety and health. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you. Thanks to all the sponsors and supporters. Guys, you know I love you, and we appreciate what you're doing to help us with this as well. It is still December 3rd. We just did a really interesting episode. My buddy Jon Palipinto, EHS manager for a large food processing facility in the area, is with me today. We talked about some of the issues that he was confronted with, starting a safety program of this magnitude from scratch. Really interesting, good take-home messages. And so I mentioned that you might be one of the few safety professionals that I know that has ever started a program from scratch. You know, I mean, a blank canvas as you described it. So you were able to put your particular preferences, touches on this program. The other thing that you might be one of the only safety professionals that I know of is you have had to deal with the agency, so with OSHA, for many more than your share of interactions. So you've been with this company for about 3 years, give or take?
Almost 3 years now.
Almost 3 years. And in that time, since you are in food processing, which is an emphasis area in our state, of course, how many interactions with the agency have you had?
Since we opened in September of 2019, I've had 12 investigations.
Oh my God, which is almost unheard of. I would venture to guess that a guy who's been with a contractor for 30 years maybe has 12 interactions with OSHA. Over the course of literally 36 months, give or take, you've had 12 interactions. Had you had an OSHA interaction before that?
Never had one before.
So with the grain company, or certainly not with the military?
No.
Interesting.
Never.
But you've had 12. So I would like to discuss that a little bit. What, before you had this, what were your fears, your feelings? And then over this time, how has that evolved?
Yeah, everybody is, when OSHA comes, you have that fear that you're going to be held liable for something that's wrong, safety-wise. Right. And I think that's, as a safety professional, it's one thing you never want, because, I know my drive is to provide that safe environment for the employees, and for someone to come in and tell you that you're doing something wrong safety-wise, it hurts.
Absolutely.
Hurts tremendously.
Take it very personally.
Yeah, it is personal. It's very personal. And, the first time they came, I was nervous. Brand new facility. I knew we had programs that, we're still working on, and they weren't 100%. And I was nervous that they were going to look at something and find something to cite us on. Be
really critical of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing that they were new and that they were in progress. And that's a valid fear, of course, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, so now some of these visits have probably been related to COVID, the COVID protocols and things. In the food processing world here in Nebraska, the food processing industry has been heavily scrutinized from a COVID standpoint. So some were more related to safety and health practices or procedures, and some were related to COVID, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I've had everything from, complaints about forklifts investigated to chemicals that are used in the manufacturing process to COVID. So it's been pretty much the whole gamut. I've had all my programs looked at, everything from my lockout tagout to my respiratory protection.
Absolutely.
So
interesting. And so what have you learned from that process? I mean, after 12 inspections, does it scare you anymore? Does the process scare you?
It doesn't scare me anymore. I was to a point during all these inspections that I was almost scheduling, or
you knew they would be coming.
I knew they were coming. I would know that, hey, it's been a month and a half. They're due to come here.
Yeah.
And I got to the point to where when they showed up, I just put on a happy face, walked out there, and felt like, hi, my name's Jon. I'm the EHS manager here. How can I help you? What can I assist you with?
Right.
And what I found with OSHA inspectors is they're human beings, and they don't. I think that first impression that you're there to help them get through this too, because it says a lot, and then that hopefully helps them formulate a decision that's in your favor.
Right. Well, having been an OSHA inspector, having been on that side of the interaction, I can tell you from my experience that when I would arrive at a facility and I would take a raft of shit from some guy who I caught him at a bad time and he wasn't happy to see me, I can't say that things necessarily went well for them. I mean, so as subjective as that can be, the way that you treat this inspector, that initial interaction and that first impression that you mentioned is really important to how this proceeds. And I'm not suggesting that you should, allow them to just run over you, but it does matter. I mean, this interpersonal, it does matter.
And then that's it. I mean, you don't want to be like, put your hands up. Yeah, I'm guilty. You, by all means, defend yourself.
Right.
But just in the end, they're a human being.
Right.
And I think if you assist them with their investigation, if they ask a question, answer the question. Don't elaborate any more than answering the question.
That's good advice.
And if they want to see a document, and you provided them the document as soon as you can. And I think they want to close out the case. I would say, and I have never been in OSHA. They want to close it out probably just as quickly as you want it to be closed out.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I've learned is, treat them like a human being, answer their questions, answer the question only, provide the information that they want as soon as possible. And all of them went well for me. Good. They closed out relatively quickly.
Which is remarkable, man. But it is a testament to what you guys have done too, because a lot of facilities that they would go into, they would not go quite that well. So it is a credit to what you guys have done and your attitude towards safety at your facility. That makes a huge difference. And I think OSHA inspectors can sense that to some degree, particularly the experienced ones. They know when they're in a facility where they care, and they know when they're in a facility where they don't care. And that is important as far as the outcome of these inspections goes. I want to ask you, and to the extent that you feel comfortable answering this, did you find value in OSHA inspections? Did you ever learn anything, or was it just a neutral experience, or did you ever gain anything from it?
I think so. There's always stuff that I've taken away of, everything from providing that information, and then if something wasn't exactly how they wanted to see it, answering the question, showing them, hey, we are making those strides. It's just it's not spelled out here exactly, but we're moving it forward. And even though it's not there, document it, which it should be. I think they must have validated that with interviews or what they saw out there.
Right.
And then taking what they said, hey, yeah, you're doing it, but it should be here.
Right. That's a huge point, man, because there can be a disconnect between the documentation and the implementation piece. OSHA is heavy on documentation, but safety is about implementation. And so I've seen a lot of employers, they just get behind on the documentation. If I go out there and I can interview an employee or multiple employees and establish that you're doing what you say you're doing, man, the documentation can be improved. It's hard to do the opposite. Have a lot of great documentation and nothing happening out there on the floor. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's, we showed them the program. We showed it was moving forward. They validated it with the documentation, interviews. And I think that's what they wanted to see. And they made some, I know they don't make recommendations. I call them recommendations or suggestions and we make those recommendations or suggestions. We do them. We implement them in our program and we move forward.
If they make sense, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I do know that, again, in my experience, OSHA representatives like to see things a certain way. They're familiar with a certain template, perhaps, or language. I've always encouraged my clients, just use their language, use the templates that they provide if they make sense for you. When you start changing things dramatically, it can confuse the subject a little bit.
Absolutely. And that's, I think that's very evident with the COVID guidelines. Yeah, they're guidelines, but when I was inspected they used those guidelines as their inspection criteria.
Absolutely.
And it was, I want to see A, B, and C, and that's provided it to them. They wanted to see it in that, you know, format, and we used the guidelines and that they had on their website, and we were pretty much, you know, good every time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they do have, actually, with this second emergency temporary standard, the vaccination testing one, they do have some really useful templates on the website now. For, I know that, you know, these issues have been stayed temporarily or perhaps permanently, but I've encouraged people to, you know, go on the website, pull off those templates, start reading them, and, you know, starting to formulate a plan.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's where I got my tools from, is that website for this mandate that, you know, temporarily stayed. I've moved my COVID program forward to be in compliance with that. I haven't implemented it yet, but it's ready to go.
Ready.
I'm ready to go, and I've used those tools. I just don't want to be caught in a position where, if they do show up or want to see documentation, I don't want to be like, well, that was stayed. I know that's
right.
And, you know, it was just overturned and now we're here, but I don't have it. I don't think that's going to be a good excuse with them. So that's why I'm prepared for.
I think that's great advice, man. So, in closing, this whole OSHA thing, you were just like initiated by fire. You had been with the company about a year, probably, before COVID.
Yeah.
And so the last 2 years have been lived under this umbrella, this wet towel of COVID, in a large facility, lots of employees, high profile.
Yeah.
And you're coming out on the other side. Things are going reasonably well.
Yeah, we're doing well. I mean,
that's impressive.
We're keeping COVID it's under control. I mean, safety's improving every day. The DART rate, the incident rate, the number of incidents has dropped drastically since last year.
Impressive. So,
I mean, to me, it's working, and the employees, it shows with the employees too, because you provide that safe work environment. I guarantee you production's going to be better.
Yeah, it's all correlated, right? It's all, you can't separate those things out. I've always found that to be kind of odd or ironic, the thought that I have a safety program, I have a quality program, we do operations, they're all integrated, they're also intimately intertwined. You can't separate
them. The three-legged stool.
Yeah.
You set all three legs there. If you're missing one, it's gonna fall over.
Exactly. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Again, have a good weekend. If you're listening, we appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, I brought in the best looking guy I knew for one of the first episodes. And of course, as we discussed, hair and makeup was not on staff today, so I had to do my own hair and makeup. So we apologize for any discomfort that's caused you. We'll talk to you soon. Stay focused on the mission and keep up the good work. Later.